we are learning more about the victims of Saturday's synagogue shooting in California, where one person was killed and 3 others were wounded when a gunman opened fire at a congregation of Chabad in the Chabad of Poway.
A 60-year-old Lori Gilbert Kay died while preparing to honor her late mother at a service to mark the end of Passover. The gunman is facing murder charges. Police believe that the attack was a hate crime. This happened exactly 6 months after the shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh last fall. David Begnaud has more now from Poway.
This is what it looked like when the city of Poway came together Sunday night to start the process of healing.
Being here to support us, the Jewish community, because we are all children of God.
The Chabad of Poway congregation was marking the final day of Passover when police say 19-year-old John Ernest burst into the synagogue and opened fire with an assault-style rifle. About 100 people were inside.
And as I turned around, I saw the face of this murderer, of this terrorist.
The gunman took aim at Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein, who was preparing to lead the service. He suffered serious injuries to his hands, losing one index finger.
Could have gone right through my chest. Could have gone right through my heart. Both fingers.
The gunman fired several rounds before the gun jammed.
I don't think I'm a brave person.
Oscar Stewart says he saw Ernest open fire from the back of the room, and he ran toward him, shouting at him. That's when Ernest turned around and ran.
They say I saved lives. I don't know if I saved any lives. I just did what I did.
An off-duty Border Patrol agent who had recently discovered his Jewish roots was also at the synagogue. He fired at the shooter, hitting the gunman's vehicle as the suspect drove away. Authorities say Ernest ended up calling 911 himself and telling them where he was, about a mile from the synagogue.
As our officer was exiting the freeway, he clearly saw the suspect in his vehicle. Suspect pulled over, jumped out of his car with his hands up.
The FBI has joined the investigation. Police searched the home Ernest shares with his parents. They're also reviewing an anti-Semitic manifesto that appears to be written by the teen, in which he said he was inspired by last month's mass shooting at a New Zealand mosque.
I had to look the murderer in the face for something for me to impart to the rest of the world.
What is that?
To change. It's time for a change. It's not just anti-Semitism. It's all type of bigotry. We have lost our soul.
So, David, you are still in Poway. This is an area that's seen like really only a few murders at all in the last decade. Nothing like this. So how are people holding up?
About as well as can be expected. I would say that I've been touched by how willing people are to talk, to speak, to hug, to quite quickly talk about moving forward, and more importantly, let you know that the service that's going to happen today for Lori is one that's going to be a celebration of life. In fact, I was asking a rabbi, I said, are you okay with us being at the funeral tomorrow? We want to be very respectful of the family. And he said, actually, I just spoke with the husband, and he not only wants the cameras at the funeral, he wants the cameras inside, actually up on the altar, if you will, right, in the area where the celebrant will be. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, I talked to the husband, and the husband wants to make sure this is about celebrating her life, not just stewing on the tragedy and the grief of her death.
David, how is the rabbi doing? We know, I saw your piece earlier this morning, he was wounded in the shooting, but he's been out there talking to you, talking to members of the press, and to his community.
Yeah, he's just not getting any rest, but that's by choice. In fact, when I interviewed him last night, he immediately left and went to meet Lori's husband. I said to him, I said, where does the strength come from for you to be able to talk so openly about everything so quickly? And he said, behind me, and he pointed to his teacher, who told him more than 30 years ago that he should come here to Poway, California, open a synagogue. And so he did. He brought his wife and started a family and has 6 kids and has run the synagogue and the preschool and everything. He is a reflective man. He's a prayerful man. But you can't imagine how overcome he is with shock, right? I remember him saying to me yesterday, what kind of 19-year-old can walk into a place like our synagogue and point a rifle at people and start shooting? Who does that? What has to happen to a human being to get them to do that?
So I know there's a philosophy, David, when things like this happen, to not talk about the suspect, right? But I also think that there's a lot to be learned. This is just my sort of point of view. I know, Vlad, you don't really like to mention the suspect's name and this sort of thing. But, you know, authorities are looking at this as a possible hate crime. David, do you know why they're leaning in that direction?
I don't know exactly what verbiage they would use other than the obvious, quite honestly. The official hate crime charge has not been filed yet. The gunman studied nursing here in this area. His family is from here. He's not a stranger. He knows this area very well. Anne-Marie, I do have to tell you, in places like New Zealand and Australia, they take more of an approach of not naming. In fact, in New Zealand, if you'll remember, the law required that CBS News and other organizations actually blur the face of the gunman. Far be it from me to dictate how it should be done. I think if we didn't say anything about who it was, then you have people who might say, but you can't hide who it was. You can't hide where they're from. You can't hide what they did. At the end of the day, we're here to do a job as respectfully as we possibly can, telling all sides, certainly not wanting to glorify one, but we will let you know what happens with the gunman. He is in custody right now. He has been denied bail, and we expect him to be in court to face a judge on Wednesday.
All right, David, thank you very much.